Larry joining us live on the show because I was about to, do what I don't do, which is I was about to start throwing stuff around here. I'm like, look, it's one thing when we have a hard time connecting with Tom Rathman and it takes a minute.
Yeah.
But if we're having a hard time connecting with Larry Krueger, then what the hell are we doing? Like, honestly, Larry, the first time they called you, you didn't answer. What were you doing?
I told Lucas if it just said Lucas, I would have answered, but it said Infinity something or other, Xfinity, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know Xfinity. It's a sales call. And then I forgot that I was on with the two biggest radio power brokers in the Bay. But I'm glad that I answered, and I'm glad that I'm here, and I apologize if I'm late.
You forgot, huh? You forgot.
I had a lot going on, man. I had Randy Gregory on the brain, and it was a big day today, big day.
All right, well then let's hear it. Let's hear it, Larry Krueger. What do you think of the Randy Gregory acquisition?
Mark, it's an amazing acquisition because of the timing, and this is something that I've been talking about since the end of training camp. The 49ers traded essentially their depth at defensive end for Javon Hargrave. I mean, they let Menahue and Willis and Ebukam walk, and those guys averaged 91 snaps per game in their 3 playoff games. So those guys weren't just like guys. And then when I talked to Chris Kocurek this summer, I'm like, you may have the NFL's best first-team D-line. Are you going to play them additional snaps? He's like, no, I'm going to play my guys in the same rotation I've always played them in. And then I kind of went, uh-oh, because, Kerry Hyder was a little long in the tooth. I love Kerry. He's a great guy, but he's a little old. And he's asking a lot of Drake. And then Cleveland Farrell has 10 sacks in 4 NFL seasons. So, it's not like he's LT in his prime. So they've lost some good defensive ends, and they didn't replace them with guys who were equal talents. So they had a void there. And I don't know if you saw the stat, but those 3 guys that they have, Hyder, Jackson, and
Austin
Farrell, Farrell had combined for only 8 quarterback hits in like 243 pass rush snaps. And then you take, Gregory, for example, he's got 4 quarterback hits and 73 pass rush snaps. So it's a major upgrade, and ultimately they may be trading the last pick of the 6th round for the first pick of the 7th round.
So it eventually becomes a true lateral pick swap, and they're picking up the majority of the contract, and it's such that they can get out of the deal at the end of this year. So we know that he won't be able to show up in time for the Sunday night game against Dallas. So how do the 49ers generate enough pressure to augment what Nick Bosa is starting to do on the other side?
It's a great question. I mean, Steve Wilkes says that he thinks he can get pressure with his front 4. If he can't, he'll dial up some exotic blitzes. They'll definitely play some games up front. They found a way to get it done because their offense is putting up such points that they're making teams very one-sided by the second half of these games. They're taking away the run from teams by just what they're doing on the other side of the ball. So, I think they're hoping that probably more of the same. This game is the big thing in this game is Dallas gets benefits from huge negative plays because they put a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They get turnovers, short fields, etc. Brock Purdy just has to be willing to throw that away, and if they have to punt and play field position and play a little bit more conservatively. Don't let Dallas needs big negative plays from opposing offenses to win games. Just don't make those big negative plays, and the 49ers should win this game by 10.
Larry Krueger with us here, Willard and Dibs, talking 49er football. Hey, was it your question the other day that got Kyle Shanahan to say it was ridiculous, the idea that Brock Purdy is a product of him?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I had that question dialed up like literally 48 hours ahead of time. I knew I was asking him.
Yeah, like what do you think of the, quite frankly, national conversation that has come up surrounding Brock?
Well, you're talking about that. I was listening to you guys the other day when you have Ruiz guy. You talking about that Ruiz?
Well, any of it. Just simply the fact that he has become one of the hottest topics in the entire league across the nation, trying to decipher how to label him and how to explain what he's doing.
I know it's phenomenal. What a story! I mean, Mark, this is amazing. This guy went from Mr. Irrelevant to very much in the MVP discussion for the league. I mean, that's not overstating things. And if anything, people say, well, his numbers are inflated because of Kyle and the Niners and their weapons. No, you got it wrong. His numbers are actually deflated because he's dead last in the NFL in fourth quarter pass attempts. The Niners are getting to three quarters with a double-digit lead and shutting down the passing game, and it's deflating his numbers. But he doesn't care because he's all about the win. He's all about the W, so he doesn't care about any of that. But that's the reality. He could have even bigger numbers if he just got into a game where he had to throw the ball down the field for all four quarters.
That's true, and so far they haven't had to do that. Even in the one-score win over the Rams, it really was a two-score win, and McVay decided late to kick a meaningless field goal in that one. Micah Parsons, Larry, I'm fascinated to see how Dallas tries to exploit the Niners' O-line. I know they like to move him around a lot. They'll put him in the A-gap if need be. Would you imagine he lines up a lot over McKivitz trying to expose the weak side of the Niners' O-line?
Well, you would think so, Dibs, but it's not necessarily always the way they think. In the playoff game last year at Levi's, he actually played 12 more snaps against Trent Williams than he did against McGlinchey. So go figure. You would think you would run with both feet away from Trent and take those McGlinchey matchup all day, and this year McKivitz matchup all day, but that's not the way they played it last year. Now, I'm not sure how they'll play it this year. The one thing about Dallas that's so impressive is not that they have Parsons, is that they have 7 guys on their defensive front that have 6 or more pressures. And they've got a bevy of starting defensive ends that they can just roll out in a rotation. So the thing that jumped out to me when I watched them on the All-22 the last couple of weeks, because I checked out their last couple of games, it's the speed of their defensive line. The UCLA kid, and I won't even try to pronounce his last name, but his first name's Osa. He's one of the fastest interior defensive linemen in the entire league. So that's going to be the real challenge. It's going to be on Burford, and I think it's Burford and McKivitz that are really going to be challenged the most. And they're going to have to step up and really play well. And then, the Niners are going to have to run the ball successfully. I mean, it's been a great matchup for the 49ers. Why? Because the Niners can run it on Dallas, and Dallas can run it a little bit. I mean, last year Pollard got knocked out by Jimmy Ward, but they don't run it as successfully, and they definitely don't stop the run. So, I mean, that's the game plan. Run it a lot. And but then I talked to Chris Forster this week, and he said, hey, look, if you run away from Parsons, he's got a motor and pursuit ability that's the envy of the whole league. And if you run at him, he just throws away blocks and comes off blocks and makes the play. So I think what you got to do to Parsons, guys, is you got to block him with a bunch of different guys. You got to double him from different angles and make him have a head on a swivel and just cause the slightest bit of hesitation. And if you can get him to slightly hesitate, I think you're winning.
Larry Krueger with us, Willard and Dibs. Okay, because you broke down all 22, here's something that's been bouncing around in my mind with, quite frankly, both of these defenses. Outside of Matt Stafford, these two defenses have largely faced like the dregs of the league. Dallas has 3 wins. It's Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones. Are these two defenses, or have they proven that they're actually the top 2 defenses in the league this year?
I mean, that's a great question, too, but we have more than this year to go on. The Niners were the number 1 defense in the NFL last year, number 1 against the run, and they added Javon Hargrave. Dallas has had a high-pressure defense, but they used to have Diggs, and now he's done for the year. So I just think Dallas is deep and fast up front. They're real, and they're kind of a bully team, Mark, where if they can get up, the key in this game is stay ahead of the chains, don't get into third and forevers, and then stay within an arm's distance on the scoreboard. If they prey on teams that fall behind the chains and fall behind on the scoreboard, and they can dial it, they can turn a 21-3 game into 35-3 in the blink of an eye, which is big playability, and that's what Dallas is. I don't think Dallas. I mean, Cardinals ran for over 7 yards a carry with Connor. They had 222 yards rushing. Niners are going to run the ball. And if Dallas can have any success in this game, they're going to have to prove first they can stop the 49er run. And if they can't, it's going to be a very one-sided game. I expect them to do a decent job at shutting down the Niner run game and forcing Purdy to pass. And then it's going to be, can Purdy be efficient and take care of the ball, or is Dallas going to get turnovers and make this a really close game, or maybe even win it?
Dallas and the Niners are ranked 1 and 2 in fewest number of missed tackles on the year. Dallas actually is first with only 9 missed tackles. So, Larry, what is the problem with their run defense? Is it run fits? Is it losing at the point of attack, or all of the above?
They got a lot of pass rushers. Pass rushers see dollar signs and want to sack the quarterback. It's much more difficult, to play, head up, stay in the hole, engage, and then fire off blockers. And it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of, fortitude. They like to get up the field and hunt the quarterback. So that I think is the primary issue. And they've got some DBs that are terrific ball skill guys who grab interceptions, but they're not the greatest tackling group of DBs. They don't even have a big hitter necessarily back there. So I think that's really it. They've got guys corners who love to intercept the ball, and pass rushers who love to sack the quarterback. The two inside guys are both good players, but I think they can be exposed in pass coverage, and I think Shanahan's going to try to make those guys the conflict defender and kind of isolate them in space against McCaffrey, against Kittle. I think McCaffrey, Kittle have big games.
Yeah, those are the names, right? Middle of the field. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ, FM, and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union, Willard and Dibs, and we're talking with our guy, Larry Krueger, as we get ready for Niners and Cowboys. Okay, Larry, how would you answer this? How does the conversation sound if Purdy wins this? How does it sound if he loses this?
Well, if he loses it, it's going to be the guy with the iffy arm strength against the fastest defenses can't cut it. And, he's a good quarterback and you can win some games with him. I'm not saying that he's terrible. You'll have those kind of comments. But, he's, against the fastest defenses, he won't make plays, and he doesn't have the zip, and he can't put it in the tight windows, and that's why he'll never be good enough to win, and, it'll be that kind of stuff. If he wins, and it also depends how he wins, right? If they win and they run for 220, then it's a big, wow, man, look at this. Dallas can't stop the run. That's their problem. Can they win the Super Bowl? All the talking heads are talking about that. And McCaffrey for MVP. Is he going to be an MVP? Oh, my goodness, look what he's doing. But what happens if they win big and it's a Brock fest and he's 3 bills and 3 touchdowns and the Niners put up 35 and win going away and he makes lots of plays? It's going to be this unbelievable story of, I think the national story will then start to look at this guy as, hey, you know what? This guy's for real. This could be, in some ways, like we all know the guy's for real. At least we should by now if we've been watching. The nation will know this guy's for real if he has the big game against the Cowboys.
How does Dallas go about exposing this 49er defense? We talked about the Niners running it and using the middle of the field. Does Dak Prescott and the offensive line have the scheme and the wherewithal to give him enough time to go deep down the field and expose the Niners secondary that has been beaten at times?
Well, the one thing Niners lucked out last year because Jimmy Ward made that swinging gate tackle, which is borderline dirty, but we all looked away because it was Jimmy Ward for the Niners. But he took out Pollard and broke his leg in the playoffs. Well, Pollard, if you watch the film, looks like the same. It looks like he never got hurt. I mean, it's amazing watching him. And even Wilk said that this week. I was like, you know what? I know Steve's watching that film because that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like he's never been hurt. So now the Niners have to defend Pollard for 4 quarters and not just a quarter and a half. That's a huge difference between this year and last year. And I think the other difference is you're going to see CeeDee Lamb play in the slot against Isaiah Oliver. And I talked to Oliver about it this week, and he said, CeeDee's a different kind of a player because he's really, really quick. and he's hard to get your hands on him at the line. But to me, that's like the key matchup. Cowboys are using CD in the slot a lot more this year to isolate against their best matchups. They're going to do it against Oliver. And Oliver's a veteran, and he's a big-bodied guy, but he's not quite as quick. And whoever wins that matchup or how that matchup goes probably determines a lot in this game.
You think there's a psychological edge that the 49ers have here?
Definitely. Mooney Ward said it in front of his locker. People were like, "Hey, are you sweating the Cowboys?" I forget exactly how the question was asked, and he's like, "Hey, man, we won. We're cool. We're good." It's like the Cowboys are the ones going. I don't know if you saw Arch or one of the Cowboy media guys talk to Dak. He's like, "How did you feel at the end of that game?" I'm like, I thought Dak was going to cry. He literally broke down he stared the guy down. He's like, "Really?" That's the question. You guys probably get the audio. Cowboys have the Niners, absolutely. They've got this game circled. That's why that's why this game's so awesome. Because if the 49ers can put one on Dallas here, Dallas circled this game. It's sneaking up on nobody. The Niners have ousted them from the playoffs the last 2 years. They know it. The Niners have the upper hand mentally. The Niners are the team rolling in with the swagger. The Cowboys are rolling in wondering if they can do it. And if they get slapped around, it'll be a devastating game for their season.
Well, before we get additional bonus predictions from you, Larry, because I understand you're like Krueger up in this piece, what's your prediction for this Sunday night game?
I think the Niners. It's this one. I think it's Niners 35-14.
Whoa!
Coming in hot.
Wow! You think it's a blowout?
Yeah, I do. Because at the end of the day, the Niners have Greenlaw and Warner, and they stopped the run. They, look what these teams have done. Dallas is a bully team. But if you had a quarterback that was super talented but turned it over left and right, you'd be like, I don't know, man, a little bit of a coin flip, right? Because if our guy turns it over a couple times, we easily lose this game. But when you have Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy's taking care of the football, and Shanahan's got all these phenomenal weapons that all can excel right around the line of scrimmage. Ayuk is acting like every ball in the air is his personally his. He's just, I don't know if he's dropped anything all year. And Debo's in the best shape of his life. They're primed. Kittle got really close to some catches the last few weeks, and he's hungry, man. He's going off in this game. So I think 49ers are going to put, Niners are scoring about 30 a game. I think they're going to put 35 up, and I think Dallas will have some turnovers, and they'll put up 14 and leave town.
All right, there it is.
It is.
Larry Krueger is on the payroll, so it doesn't really count when you say that's a great question, but you gave each of us one. That means you're the tiebreaker. Who asked better questions today, Larry?
Well, you know what? I was on your guys' website, and I saw some pictures of Dibs wearing Marvin Hagler sunglasses. And just because Dibs can get away with Marvin Hagler sunglasses in public around fans, I think I'm going with Dibs.
On the scoreboard, man.
That's the deal breaker.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry.
Right, hang up on him. Yeah.
I thought he was going to say, well, that's a good question, Mark.
That's what I was going for.
Totally.
Who asked better questions? You should have said, that's a great question. I can't believe that you missed out on that, Larry, and forgot about us at the beginning of this conversation.
I know. Well, forgot is the real disrespect. It's been a big Friday, a lot going on, and, I zoned a little bit. But check out me and Lowe from the Santa Clara Hilton, by the way, in the pregame. I love my man Lowe Neal. Last week, guys, he pulled Larry Centers,
nice,
the all-pro fullback, who then told us that he played with Tom Brady and that Brock Purdy reminded him of Tom Brady on the pregame.
Hey, now.
Man.
Yeah.
Larry Centers and Lowe, both among the 122 modern era nominees for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Larry, as you well know.
No. As we all know, if we watched them, two guys who played the exact same position completely differently.
Very differently, yeah.
And yet both are Canton. As sure as I'm standing here, those guys are Canton.
No doubt. 3 to 5:20, Larry and Lowe live from the Hilton.
All right, Larry.
Don't be late, Larry.
I was late last week.
Yeah. No doubt.
And, When your work day is like an hour and a half or 2 hours and you're late, it's generally not a good thing.
Yeah, it's pretty weak. That's pretty weak. That's what I've been telling my son every week. All right, buddy. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, fellas.
All right, you too.
Thanks, Larry.
Larry Krueger.